India's defense sector is in the middle of a huge boom, and it's completely reshaping the country's industrial landscape. So today, we're doing a deep dive into one of the real titans at the heart of all this, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, or AHL. Let's jump right in. You know, for years, this sector was kind of the quiet giant, just steadily doing its thing. But lately, it has just exploded into the spotlight. And we're not talking about some slow, gradual change here. This is a fundamental rethinking of national strategy, and it's being driven by some really powerful forces, both at home and abroad. So with all this growth, you gotta ask, who are the companies actually building this new future? And while there are a lot of players in the game, a couple of government-owned giants really stand out. Their stories tell us pretty much everything we need to know about where India is headed.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big picture of India's defense boom, then introduce the two titans at the center of it all. After that, we'll put HAL right under the microscope. We'll look at its business, its numbers, and what the road ahead looks like. And finally, we'll see how the stock market is looking at all of this.
So, what's fueling this fire? Well, it really all boils down to a crystal clear mandate from the government to build more stuff at home. It's a policy that was born out of both necessity and, frankly, a whole lot of ambition. What's really interesting here is how all these different pieces are coming together to create a kind of perfect storm. You've got rising geopolitical tensions, which naturally forces a laser focus on national security. And that feeds directly into the government's big push for a self-reliant India, what they call the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. All of this is backed by bigger and bigger defense budgets, making the mission pretty clear. Rely less on other countries for military gear.
Leading the charge in this shift are two absolute giants, both state-owned, Hindustan Aeronautics, or HAL, and Bharat Electronics, BEL. They are both incredibly important, but they play in very, very different parts of the defense world.
So first up, we've got HAL. The easiest way to think about them is as the master builders of India's Air Force. They design, build, and fix pretty much everything that flies for the military. We're talking about massive, incredibly complex machines that are literally the backbone of the nation's air power.
And then you have BEL. They're in a whole different league, defense electronics. As you know, modern warfare is all about technology, and that's where BEL comes in. Their radars, secure communication systems, and electronic warfare gear are absolutely critical on today's battlefield.
And this is a really simple way to think about it. If HAL builds the body, the powerful airframe, then BEL provides the brain and the central nervous system. HAL's projects, like building a brand new fighter jet, cost a ton of money and can take decades. BEL, on the other hand, works in much quicker cycles because the tech at the heart of modern warfare needs to be upgraded constantly to stay ahead.
But here's what's fascinating. Despite having such different ways of doing business, just look at how the market values them. Their market caps are almost identical. So what does that tell us? It suggests that investors see huge complementary value in both sides of the coin, the long-term industrial power of the airframe and the fast-moving high-tech world of the brains.
Okay, so let's zoom in on our main focus, HAL. This company isn't just a manufacturer, it's a strategic national asset. It's the very foundation of India's power in the skies. So what does HAL actually build? Well, its flagship products are iconic. The Su-30 MKI fighter, the homegrown Tejas light combat aircraft, and helicopters like the Dhruv and the light combat helicopter. But here's the real kicker. It's MRO business. That's maintenance, repair, and overhaul. This provides a super stable, recurring stream of revenue for the entire life of these planes and choppers, which can be decades long.
All right, let's talk numbers, because this is where you really get a sense of the sheer scale of this operation. Let's peel back the curtain and look at HAL's financials.
This number is just staggering. 2.5 trillion rupees. To put that into perspective, that's more than the entire annual GDP of some small countries. And this isn't just a wish list. This is a confirmed pipeline of work that gives the company incredible visibility into its future revenues for years to come. And all those orders? Well, they're expected to turn into some very, very strong growth. You can see the projected sales here just climbing steadily through fiscal year 28. This tells us that HAL is really getting ready to hit the accelerator on production and deliveries. And what's really amazing is that this growth is built on a rock-solid financial foundation. First off, being majority owned by the government of India gives it immense stability. It's also consistently net debt-free, which is almost unheard of for a company of this size. And to top it all off, it's sitting on a massive cash pile of over 33,000 crore rupees. That gives it a ton of flexibility.
Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. No story is complete without looking at both sides. With this kind of massive opportunity comes some pretty significant challenges. So let's take a look at the road ahead for how.
The optimism is just palpable. This quote from an analyst report really sums it up perfectly. They see HALE entering its best execution phase with the fastest revenue growth in over a decade. So yeah, the market has very high expectations. But meeting those expectations means navigating some serious hurdles. The supply chain, especially for critical parts like engines, is a major thing to watch. Any delays there can cause big problems. Then there's the risk of just not delivering on time for major programs, like the advanced Tejas Mk1A fighter. And since over 90% of its money comes from a single customer, the Indian military, its fate is directly tied to defense budgets. And finally, these contracts are strict. If you're late, you often pay some hefty penalties. So, with these two different stories, how have investors reacted? Let's circle back to our comparison with BEL for a quick look at the stock performance. Over the last year, HALE stock has kind of been a story of consolidation. It's up a solid 11%, but it's also seen investors take some profits after that absolutely massive rally it had back in 2022. BEL, on the other hand, has been much more of a steady climber, reflecting its business model. Its stock has been way less volatile and is still trading super close to its all-time high. So what's the big picture here? What's the main takeaway? HAL is an absolutely essential pillar of India's defense strategy, period. It has a confirmed massive runway for growth ahead of it. But its entire future, all of it, really hinges on one single word: execution. Delivering these massive, complex projects on time and on budget is the ultimate test. And all of this leaves us with one final question to think about. As India pushes for true self-reliance in defense, where does the future really lie? Is it in the large-scale industrial might of building the airframes? Or is it in the nimble, high-tech sophistication of electronic warfare?